as I talk every single week.
Yeah.
Um,
You're the
so
man.
it's I guess it's a victory, but maybe not a victory too. So this last month I've been going after my niche. I did 6 weeks of calling on it, and it was just like beating my head against a wall. I couldn't get anyone to like get me started. Um, Even bending over backwards. So and that was restoration, like water damage, fire damage, and stuff. And so I slept and I woke up, and it occurred to me that like they're not hungry enough for my type of marketing, my type of leads, because a lot of them survive just by like charming a single plumber or like a couple plumbers in town, and they get all the leads referred. So it occurred to me that wasn't the best, and so now I'm pivoting to a new niche. And once I decided that that niche was not for me, it felt like a weight lifted off my shoulder, which was good because I don't have experience in that niche at all. So I am choosing, have chosen a different one, and like now pivoting and running on that. But it feels a lot better. It's more aligned with like the ones I'm considering are more aligned with what I did in the past, and I'm just ready to take a big swing. So met with Casey last week and meeting with him after this call, and I need to get the niche sorted and some websites set up. But yeah, feels good to like. It's not that it feels good to give up on the niche, but it feels good to realize I was banging my head against a wall. Um,
What?
I
How
could
many calls did you make?
a lot, probably like over 200 calls, probably. Um,
I would like. I just want to set some expectations on cold calling. You're not like that's a bang your head, no matter what niche you're in. And part of it is the script that you give, right? What you need is you got to have a system that has people, regardless of the niche, the best type of pipeline that comes in is going to be one where people are kind of raising their hand and saying like, hey, I want the service. And that requires positioning. So
mm,
I know people in that fire niche, like fire safety and remodeling and like the all those niches that have built multiple seven-figure agencies, but you've got to take the time to you got to take the time to get some of that stuff in place and also set the expectations for cold calling as like, well, that's cold calling, like part of it, right? You're probably going to get 5 to 7% of the people are actually going to answer the call. Most people aren't going to call you back if you leave a message. And then of the 5 to 7% that answer a call, like now there's a percentage of those people that are going to actually be interested. So like setting those expectations. I know in the Rank Masters group on Thursday, we're bringing in, this guy's done like $100 million in sales. He's worked for Fortune like 100 companies and stuff. Very high level guy. This guy's an expert on cold calling, and he's going to tell us this. But I've had these conversations with him about this and like setting the expectations. It's a numbers game. I would be doing
mm.
100 calls a day. Like if only 5 to 7% are answering, 100 calls a day, 5 days a week, you'll get
Mm.
some appointments from that. But just like 200 is not a ton, in my opinion.
No, that's not a no, no, no. It's not a ton. Between that emails and then I've been doing the 555 on Facebook, but still like I lived off cold calling. Like I was a professional cold caller
Oh, okay.
for like years. So I know that's not a lot of calls. But it was like weird. I was just getting a lot more negative resistance than I had ever cold calling for any company ever. So I was like, oh, there's like no
Okay.
positive indications here that this is going to be a good match. And even the people I talked to on Facebook Messenger, it just was like I was having a very hard time finding anyone. Like there was a pessimism that I wasn't familiar with. And I cold called construction companies. That's what I did for
Yeah.
years.
You've got a lot of
So
context. Okay.
yeah, I've got a lot of context. So after that, after 6 weeks of like outreach, not so many cold calls, but 6 weeks of outreach, I was just like, look, somebody's gonna love me. And I don't know, it might not be restoration. So
Everybody loves you, Alec.
not in restoration.
Yeah.
That's a prereq to be in that industry. You have to hate me.
Right. Um, well, Casey can help. Casey can help too. So like, regardless of what niche. Okay, cool. So any other wins? We got one for Greg. What's up, Greg? Thank you for sharing, Alec. You're
You're-
muted. You're
You're
still
talking to
muted,
me?
Greg.
You talking to me? We're talking about the other.
Yeah.
No, I didn't
Yeah.
have a win for you. I'm sorry, Patrick.
Oh, I
Can you
saw
hear
your
me?
hand. It looked like you were raising your hand
I
up,
am
and then
raising
Oh
my
no.
hand.
uh,
Can you
Oh,
hear
the
it?
other Greg. Okay.
The other Greg. Okay. Well, do you want to go first, Greg, or you want me to go first?
He didn't have one. I think it was just there was some confusion with the names there.
Okay.
Yeah.
A question I had was this, Patrick. Um, the techniques we learn in drawing business through the referral method has got to work, and there's no better testimony than us. So why can't we go ahead and, really get into Google Maps versus cold calling and draw the business that way, versus, and the heat map and et cetera, than cold calling. Because I've done a lot of cold calling too, and it's brutal.
I just want to understand your question. You're talking about like trying to rank your agency in Google Maps to have people come to you.
Correct.
Yeah, great question. Here's the issue. So when we go and there's a skill set difference, and this is where a lot of people get stuck, right? It's like we are great at local SEO. And if you want to scale this business, if you let's look at like the biggest restaurant in the world is McDonald's, right? So McDonald's is McDonald's because everywhere they go, it's like the cheeseburger, the fries, like they have the same menu everywhere they go and they just rinse and repeat. They've niched down into that market, right? And when you niche down, you are basically making the decision that instead of going a mile wide and an inch deep, you're going to be an inch wide and a mile deep. And this is where scalability comes into. So if you want to attract these people, you're going to have to rank nationwide, right? And you're going to have to rank nationwide for like roofer marketing or something like this, right? So that is going to be not really a Google My Business play. And if you try to rank as an agency locally, you could probably get some business, but it's going to be like this guy wants his dog grooming stuff set up, and this person wants their like window tending, and it's just a million different niches, a million different clients, and it's going to take away the scalability. You're not going to position yourself as an expert, and you're going to be a generalist, right? So if you look at the money that your like generalist doctor makes versus this guy who he's a specific aortic, he works on the aortic valve and this like special little piece. That guy is making way more money because he's an inch wide and he's going a mile deep. So to do that, we can't use Google My Business at a local. There's not going to be enough local clients. And if we're taking one on and we're in the same niche, then we're competing against ourselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I wanted to ask you, why can't we just go, say, within maybe 100-mile radius of where we're operating? Like I live in Delaware, okay? And I mean, I'm thinking, why can't we just target, all of, not all of Maryland, but, say within 100 miles of where I live in southern Delaware, where where the beach is. I can I can go north, I can go west, and I can go south. And I can't go east because it's the ocean. But
yeah, let's do a example here. Let me share my screen real quick. I know this is more of a question than a win, but let's answer this for other people. Okay, so what is your niche, Greg?
construction remodeling,
Okay,
windows,
so
siding, roofing, additions, kitchens, baths, everything.
okay. Do you see a Google My? Oh, there is a Google My Business here. This is actually not this is not marketing. I put in marketing, right?
No,
These are construction companies,
correct.
right?
Right.
So there's no Google My Business that's even showing up for a marketing service in this area. I think like just my personal opinion is that's not going to be a great way. And even if you like, if we were to look at this map, like first of all, there's no Google My Business. So like having one, you may be one that like shows up. Like it may trigger if there's enough like local intent. Um, you're not going to have competitors for like that term really in like a localized area because I think a lot of people aren't using that strategy. But let's open up a map here if it will let me. I guess I've got to go through Google Maps to get there, huh? Okay, so let's go to Delaware for a minute. Okay.
I live right on the southern tip.
Okay, I'm just going to take a screenshot of this. We do have a specialist we have an SEO master on the call. So I don't want to go too deep, but I hate to leave a question unanswered too. Okay. So like if you are, let's say you get your Google My Business set up and you're doing like construction remodeling. You said you're down here, right? And
Correct.
we get a client, we land a client over inside this circle, right? And then, because our Google My Business for our marketing company is going over here, then we land a client over in this side, inside this circle. And because I'm still ranking in this first circle, someone else reaches out to me. And now I've got to compete against myself. And the service is kind of like degraded for both my clients. But let's say I do it anyways. I'm like, we don't do that in my agency. I want to have my clients be number one in the market. Now I've got two people that are in this same market. What if a third one comes along? Like I'm so limited by the area that I can serve. And honestly, the legs on your Google My Business might run out. Like you may be able to get something like this. You may be able to sneak into here, but ultimately you're going to pick up like 4 or 5 clients, right? Because the legs, the distance that this is going to travel, the ranking is going to travel is going to be really limited. What you need to do is you need to rank not in the Google My Business, but in the, this is all assuming that a map pack would be triggered, which probably is not the case, to be honest. Like, if there's not enough local intent for that term throughout Google's search records, like it's not going to trigger that even if it matches up, right? So multiple issues there. What you need to do is you need to rank for like, what'd you say it was it just remodeling?
Well, suppose I go in and cover the whole area, but I just use one contractor per trade, one contractor for siding, one contractor for roofing, like, one contractor for kitchens.
These are all different niches. Yeah, these are all different niches, in my opinion. It's kind of like, hey, at this McDonald's, we're going to serve like turkey, and over here, we're going to have ribs, right? And it's going to take away from your scalability. You want to be like an inch wide and a mile deep so that you can be the expert and be very well positioned. This is what you want to rank for right here is remodeling marketing, right? These people, whoever these people are. And it looks like these are like some national companies in here, but like, I don't know how red this ocean is and for marketing agencies in this niche, but those are the terms. And you can see it's not triggering a map pack for me. It's just going right to organic. We've got paid, and then we've got like Podium, which is a reputation management company, and they're just listing off the top remodeling contractors, probably in my area or something similar to what Yelp does. But hopefully that gives you some direction. Greg, if you want, we can chat about this on the next call, but I do want to go through the wins and make sure we got like,
sure.
We have a
Go ahead. I mean, I've taken enough of your time. I understand.
Does this give you some direction, Greg?
Some, yeah, but I still need to hone it, and zero in on it a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah, just send me a Facebook message, and we can go back and forth on voice text, and I can give you some more stuff, or even in the Facebook group. Okay, cool, man. Greg, thanks for your question. Excellent question. I'm sure a lot of people are going to get some takeaways from that as they like have their niche agencies and some of the strategies. Who else has some wins to share?
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Oh, that might be, we might need to mute you out there now, Greg.
Right back, son.
Okay, cool. Any other wins? I'll share a win while you guys are cooking up your own. This is the first time I've ever done a fast, like a multi-day fast. So for me, I'm on day 5 of a 5-day fast. My wife is like very much into, she's about to get certified in like to be an integrative health practitioner. So she's been guiding me. Tons of benefits associated with fasting. I was scared to do it. I thought like, hey, this is like, I've had blood sugar issues in the past and like acid reflux, and I thought this is going to be a nightmare, but it's actually been, I've been surprised how easy it's been. There's like little soups and stuff I take, but really excited as like my own personal growth to do this for my own health, so there's a win on my end. Isn't your mind clear? 100% my mind is clear. I felt more positive. Mondays are always hard days for me where it's like we stack up a lot of meetings and at the end of the day, I'm drained. And on this Monday, I was like happy and positive. It's just like a natural high that I didn't expect. I thought I'd be like dizzy or, just like no energy, but it's been a ton of energy when your body starts burning fat instead of like, the glucose from your food, I guess, or I don't understand all this stuff, but when it switches to fat burning, apparently it gives you this like super high. And I think I'm feeling that. So there's a win. Any other wins before we get started with Terry? Going once, going twice, sold. Okay, guys, create more wins. Let's get some wins for next week, right? Let's have positive energy. Let's look for things that we can celebrate, right? So, guys, I want to introduce you guys to Terry here, and Terry is someone that's grown to be a good friend of mine. We spoke on stages a few times. I told this story. A lot of you guys throw it in the chat if you were at our event. Share what you thought of Terry's presentation. I'd love to hear it because there's a lot of new faces on here. We bring people on. Terry is one of the highest level SEOs that I've ever interacted with. So it's a real treat to be able to have him on this call, right? Because it's hard to get access to this type of information. So one of the first times I met Terry, I was at a event and it kind of went off the rails a little bit, in my opinion, they started talking about negative SEO. And the idea was like, hey, this guy was struggling to outrank a competitor locally. And they like, hey, can we like damage them? And then through that, we'll be able to beat them out. And this like expert panel is kind of like going back and forth. And I've got my hand up for probably 5 minutes. I'm getting more and more pissed off at this. And then Terry, kind of like among his peers, says like, hey, why the hell are you trying to do negative SEO? This is somebody's livelihood here that you're potentially damaging, right? This is another company. Beat them fair and square. Don't beat them by damaging them, and you could destroy their business, and maybe their family supported on this. And that was exactly what I felt. And for me, that would really like showed who Terry was and where his heart is at. So one of my favorite stories about Terry is that, right? So I just realized that I forgot to mention something else. So I'm going to change subject. We're going to come back to Terry. I've got a dear friend of mine who is struggling with kidney failure right now. I posted it on my Facebook. I'll share the link again. So I'll just kind of share my screen for a second. This guy needs help. This guy I met when I was playing poker for a living. If you guys have any extra funds, you want to support somebody, I know that this is real. I know him personally. This isn't some like scam. This guy's lost a tremendous amount of weight as a part of this, like probably 150 pounds. Like he's got a kid, and he's a great person. He was a poker dealer for me. So I knew him for probably like 6 years when I was playing poker for a living, interacting with him on a daily basis. I started teaching him lead gen. Just like I was teaching him for free, just coaching him. I would do a weekly call with him because he's a friend and I want to try to make his life better. So I did that for about a year. This is somebody that couldn't check his email. He's got his first site. He's got leads coming in from his site, but he's got a lot of medical bills. So if you go to my Facebook and go down Paul Kelly, he's been on these calls with us a bunch of times. He's worked with people on our team. Amazing soul going through a tough time. If you guys have any extra funds and want to help somebody out, I'd appreciate it, and I know he would. So, all right. Just wanted to share that. So, you can find that on my Facebook feed. All right. So, all right, guys, changing gears back. I just wanted to mention that because, before we jump into this stuff with Terry, but, so Terry, as I said, he's got a heart of gold. He came and spoke at our event. Every time I see Terry speak, I'm impressed. Terry is known as like the schema expert. So schema is something that I think we have a lot of misconceptions on. So we think that this is just something that we, within Rank Math, we'll put a couple like quick things in there, and that's the end of it. But that's not like, that's the end of it for most people. And that's great news, because what that means is we have the ability to, when you do this correctly, this can be a massive ranking advantage. And Terry's proven this time and time again. It's not just schema that Terry brings, though. It's like the complete SEO. There's, like I said, I think we've interacted with, over the last decade of being in this industry, I've interacted with a ton of different people, spoken at a lot of events, coached people. of all these people over the last decade, there's a few people to the top where it's like this person is the guy with SEO, and that is like where Terry fits in. So I want you guys like and this is also the opinion that's shared by the other people that are in these SEO communities. So in the community of SEO geeks, this is the top of the community of the SEO geek, right? So that's who we have on this call. So without further ado, I want to welcome Terry. Terry, welcome to the call, man. How you doing?
I'm good. I just got to stop crying now. So, geez, Patrick, come on, man.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you got to tell the people what they want to hear.
But no, yeah, no, I'm doing awesome. So it's a privilege to be back. Like I said last week, I love your group. So
Yeah. Yeah. Terry, you came out and hung out at the event, man. And I know you can kind of see in the chat from the people that were at the event, like some of them commenting on Terry's presentation around schema. So Terry, I know that you kind of like from the outside looking at it, you guys run an agency that I think is what a lot of our agencies would want it to be. You've got your whole family involved in this, right?
3 of my 5 kids and my wife, yeah. So almost the whole family.
Right,
So,
right. And you got this successful agency, and I know that there's been a couple of times. I don't know if it was like on a Thursday or a Friday where I was like, "Hey Terry, are you available?" And you're like, "Nope, that's the day that I golf with my kids." What you have a weekly appointment where you go and hang out with the kids. You're making free time despite having this agency, right?
yeah, well, every week, every Thursday, actually it depends what time of the year. This year it's Thursday. So every Thursday, me and my boys go golfing. 2 of the boys work with me full time, 2 out of the 3. So it's, I don't know, I want to say no tax people in here. It's my weekly write-off. So,
Yeah.
and then every Sunday we have family dinner at our house where all the kids come, the grandkids, and kind of like the real life blue bloods family dinner type thing. We do that every Sunday.
I love this. I love that you've got the whole family involved in the business, and you guys do it in a way that from the outside just looks pretty like seamless. Like these people love each other, they get along, they have fun together. I think it's just inspirational for a lot of us to see that. So Terry, give us a little bit about your background. How long have you been involved? Well, let's go back to you guys had one of the biggest like house flipping companies in the state of Arizona, right?
Hmm. Yeah, during the between 2003 to 2010-ish, actually a little bit later than that, maybe 2004. Yeah, we were one of the largest house flippers in Phoenix. We were flipping about 250 houses a year on average. We owned 2 construction companies, and it was a huge company, way more than I ever want to do again. So, but it
Yeah.
was cool flipping houses. It's still one of my passions. I love teaching people how to use money differently. And I was able to do that through real estate and real estate investing and working with investors and kind of learning that side of the business. And then, but the negative thing was when it crashed, I wasn't humble enough to give up. So I thought I could be a property manager and have a bunch of rental properties, and that was probably our downfall. So we ended up losing everything through that process because my pride kind of got in the way of a good decision. If I ever had to do that again, it'd be like, nope, we're out of here. We're bankrupt. I'm bankrupting the company, and I'm going to keep my personal cash. So, but little life things that, okay, well, that'll never happen
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those experiences are some of the ones that really kind of like those are those impact moments that shape us into being better versions of ourselves that we grow from,
Hmm.
where it's like you're kind of like forced into growth at some point, right? Where I think Dan Martell calls it the pain line, where it's like the pain is too much to continue on another day, and like
Yeah.
we're gonna have to go this way. And so
Yeah, and pride's a killer for self-employed and entrepreneurs. It's we don't like to give up, or we don't like
yeah,
to, we don't like to stop digging, so to speak. We've all seen those images of dig a little further and you hit the bank of diamonds and all this stuff, and you're like,
yeah,
just a little bit longer, a little bit longer, and the next thing you know, the little bit longer is gone, and you're like, oh man, I wish I'd have done this like 18 months ago or whatever. But yeah, and it's the biggest negative though, and it still affects me today, is I have really bad trust issues. So when everything did crash, we started finding out how many people were taking advantage of us. They were, embezzling from us. I mean, and when business is going great, you don't pay attention to the little things. Well, the little things can add up over time. And so that was probably the biggest thing. Like I said, we did our first Webby today, that's kind of like my thing for the week that you announced is Elizabeth and I had our first podcast today, and we've been trying to do this for about a year and a half, and finally just jumped off the ship and went for it. So, but that was pretty cool. But just like I talked about in there, is that, I still, when I hire for people to do, whether it's working on our servers or, you know, being even in client sites, it's just, I still have real trust issues that I'm working through personal development, personal growth. One of the things I loved about your conference, or your mastermind. And that's kind of where I'm at about, whatever happens in the past, you still have some lingering effect 14 years later, so 15 years later.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, some of that healing happens on its own, and some of it requires us to like be proactive to try to get over that. And I think as a business owner who's dealt with this, now multiple times, like growing a business, there's going to be people out there that are going to like try to take advantage of things in one way or another. And it sucks and it hurts. And it's like, how do you balance that with not being open to, potential partnerships and relationships in the future? Like where like at some point you want to protect yourself, but you also don't want to prevent future opportunities. And how do you balance that? And like, it can be hard, and just realizing like no matter what we do, we're not going to be perfect. It helps me. But let's change gears here a little bit. Let's talk about SEO and schema, because I know you're a wealth of knowledge, and I want to tap into that. So Terry, just like let's give us like a 5,000-foot view of like schema and how that plays a part within SEO, and some like what is it? How do we load it in? Let's just start with that.
I think the easiest way to explain schema, is I believe it was originally designed. It's the only code that all the search engines, develop themselves. So, quasi quotation marks, it's the only code they all approve. So we've known this for years, just people haven't seen what it can actually do. We have schema.org, which is kind of our Bible of what we can do within the schema. And and then through testing and through other variables that we've been doing at Solterra now for almost 5 years, we found out different things that actually really make a big difference. And I now believe, especially with AI just coming on board like a freaking freight train, I think now the reason why schema was designed by the search engine was to organize the internet. Okay, so the way I teach schema is if, like I taught at the mastermind, if you search Patrick with a C, Shannon, there's all kinds of different results up there, but not all of them are Patrick with a C. There's a Patrick with a K. I think there was a few different Patrick with a Ks. Well, Google now, that kind of just shows us that Google has a hard time with that, call it misspelled name, even though I'm sure Patrick's parents had good intentions. They just didn't realize how Google was going to treat that. But so now it's our job with schema to say, no, we're going to bring all the Patrick with the C properties into one place. So the LinkedIn and plugins will do your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your Twitter, all your social media stuff. But the longer you've been in business, the longer you've been in different phases of different businesses, the more stuff is out there about you, about your brand, even about services. So when we go out and we search Patrick Shannon with a C, we start bringing all this stuff into his website. Okay, so now when Patrick with a C is searched, Google doesn't have to search the first 8, 10, 15 pages with all the Patrick with a C's. So, or Patrick with the C's. So schema is designed to organize that query. And so it's even getting more important now. I heard an article the other day that just in one website alone, affiliate site, they're loading 10,000 pages a day through AI. One site. So just think of the bandwidth that Google's got to figure all this crap out, and most of it's crap. Well, we can help that along by making sure that we are organizing the queries that have to do with our name, with our brand, with our service, with stuff like that. So, and I believe it's going to become more and more and more and more important, as this AI just keeps flooding the internet. So, think of it from Google and as a bandwidth thing. Google's got to be just kind of sweating bullets. I mean, their servers got to be freaking working overtime. All this stuff has to be stored somewhere. The stuff doesn't, there's no such thing as a magical cloud that all these things are out there in. So, so we need to make sure that when it is our turn for Google to crawl our site, which could be, maybe a plumber site, maybe you're hoping once a week, but it's probably more like 10 days to 2 weeks, and it's milliseconds. So when we do get the privilege of having a bot hit our site, we want to make sure that bot's reading everything they possibly can in the short amount of time they can do that. And schema, we know, gets read very quickly. It's their code. It's not PHP. It's not some, Shopify builder site or something like that. They know the code. So I'm actually under the impression that in some instances, once they read good schema, do they even need to continue on to the page content? Or can they go to the next page and read that schema, the next page and read that schema? So a lot of you guys saw I do have an entire website ranking with just schema. So we know that the crawl pattern of a bot can read what's there and associate it with pages, which was a big test. So we ranked one page, that was pretty easy, but can we rank one page that's linked to other pages in the schema that'll help the other pages rank? And yes, it did. So there's a 50,000 foot level.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And you could just kind of like casually went over that. So when you say that you rank the site with just schema, what does that mean? Can you explain what that means a little bit more?
Well, the only thing on the front page is there's a video. I put a video on there just to have a video, because sometimes a video will help indexing, because YouTube indexes quicker than Google. But if you look at if you look at the public side of the pages, there's no text on there. So what text there is from the 2010 WordPress theme. So the 1, 2, 3 Main in New York is at the bottom of the footer. The logo says logo coming soon. I mean, it's, oh, excuse me. I just was looking at analytics about 10 days ago, and I have a frequently asked questions page that's showing number 2 on the SERPs for this site. And the bounce rate is literally like 16 seconds. If you click on it, there's nothing there. So like blank page, X out. So it's actually semi-comical, but it is proving a point, or a few different points, that we know schema gets read. We know Google searches signals, because there's a lot of content in this schema. So I've got pages anywhere from, a software development page all the way down to a Phoenix web design page. So all the way down to local. So we know that the schema through the whatever code siloing or whatever we're doing, related pages is being read and followed. So that's kind of, and it's, like I said, it's one of the coolest tests. It's been live for 3.5 years, 4 years now. Well, about a year before COVID. So my life lately has been post-COVID, pre-COVID.
So what is this thing ranking for?
It's ranking for, normal terms. Like, it's easy to do a single variable test to say, hey, rank, XYZ 4, 5, 6, 7, 8B. But these are common terms. They're commonly searched terms. And they compete. Matter of fact, at one time, we kind of fluctuate back and forth. At one time, Cox.com, which is the internet provider out here in the West, we were outranking them for their business packages. So
with schema.
Yeah, we're just with schema. So
guys, like, I mean, this is amazing, guys. So what he's saying basically is that the people that have gone out and they put some content on their site, and they've like created something that converts right, and we're considering like bounce rates and all this other things that Google has in their algorithm, with something that has no chance for any of that stuff. All the stuff is solely in the schema. He's outranking a site like Cox for their local business packages, which is like, that tells you the value of schema. So let me ask you this next question. What do you think the difference is between the way that you do schema versus like what the standard operation is where we just go into rank math and we put a couple of pieces of information in there and we rely on that to just build out the schema for us.
It's definitely the research portion of it. So, like I said, Rank Math, Yoast, SEO Press Pro, which is the one we use. None of those are going to go out and search for everything that has to do with Patrick with a C. They're not designed for that. They don't, it's just a plug-in to, they give you some line items that you can plug in your social media stuff, YouTube channel, stuff like that. And then they'll put that in the schema. But that doesn't tie in all the other stuff that's out there that they're not actually finding because they have no access or not access. They have no way to find it. So the reason why a lot of people don't do the schema that we do, and I've been teaching this for years, is just because of the time it takes. It literally, I'd tell this story. We had a law firm that hired us. They have I think it was 14 to 16 lawyers and like 12 locations. And it literally took us 3 weeks just to do the research before we even wrote the schema. So there's a lot of stuff out there. The older the business is going to have more. If it's a brand new business and a brand new entrepreneur business owner, there's probably not going to be much, but you start catching it as it comes because we go out and, at least in our agency, the first thing we do is we start building foundation links. So we start building, Google Stacks and, Microsoft Stacks, and we get the syndication network built, and all this stuff needs to be in the schema. So because that way Google's going to know it's all ours, or all the citations we built, all this stuff goes in there. And then as Google indexes that stuff and it becomes second, third, fourth pages, the search engines don't have to work as hard to find it because you got it in your schema.
Awesome. This is fantastic. So the research that you're doing aside from the stacks and the syndication network, you're going out and you're finding so for the lawyers there's like 14 to 16 lawyers or whatever, you're getting all their LinkedIn information and this type of stuff as well, and tying everything about them is going back to the site, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Every single thing. So we go out and we find out what college they went to, colleges. If the colleges have it, like Jim was on the rowing team, we go out and get that link. We bring in all this stuff that we can find out about this person, place, or thing, and we bring it in all into one spot. So, and we have found weird stuff. We had found that one of the lawyers that hired us year and a half, 2 years ago, we found out one of his lawyers was disbarred. He didn't even know it. And it was funny. I sent him this link, and the link was actually one of the most. It was like a Craigslist website. It was just so basic text, no pictures, no nothing. And I told him, I said, look, this is probably BS, but we did find this. And he came back like a week later and said, you're freaking right. So, and it's just, we just found out by accident. We're just like, oh, okay. And we continued on the project and continued on his schema, found out all the stuff that he was out, where he went to college and stuff. But yeah, I guess he got in trouble in California and he wasn't able to practice there. So I don't know what all that stuff means, nor do I probably want to, but it's just stuff we find. So,
right.
And Bing has different results than Google. Yahoo has different results. So we go out and we try to bring it all in.
Yeah, absolutely. So part of what you guys are strengthening here, what it sounds like is the the EEAT, right? So the experience, the expertise, the authority, and the trust, right? It's all leading to that trust. So if you guys aren't building this into your sites, this is something that we absolutely want to consider. So the experience portion is really like the customer experience about your using your business, but that expertise, this is where you guys, it seems like the schema would have a big influence into that because you're connecting all these things from the entity network outside of the site back to the site to help establish the expertise of that person.
Exactly.
Am I thinking about that right?
Yeah, exactly right. Especially this time of year, a lot of businesses win awards and they never get notified that they have an award, but they have a link to, especially expertise.com. It's one of the most common ones out there. And we've actually found, my staff goes out to all our SEO clients starting about January through February, and we start finding all these awards that they had won, and they don't have any idea. They never got notice of it, but guess where we put that? We put that in schema as awards won. That's trust. That's building trust. So, yeah, there's lots of stuff out there like that. So, I think it's a big influence. You know, we've been putting entities in schema for years, and now we're teaching people to write about those entities. That's how important they've become, so to speak. So, but yeah, there's a lot of different parts of schema. You know, the same as is bringing everything together. Knows about, you know, that's when you get into some entity plays. You know, part of knows about is your competitors. You know about your competitors, so don't be afraid to put them in schema. You know, I know Neil Patel is one of my competitors. He's in my schema. So he might even be an entity. He might be that powerful that Google gave him a machine ID to be an entity. That would be awesome. So, but that's the kind of stuff that we want to make sure that Google sees, you know, and it's just the stuff that we can put in there where we don't have to get permission from the client. We don't have to, you know, we don't have to get content approved. We don't, you know, especially in some, you know, instances, misspelled words are very common. We can put those misspelled words in the text in the schema. If you have clients that just hate text, oh, there's just too much text on the website, we don't even argue with them anymore. We just put the text in schema. So, you know, so there's all kinds of things you can do to, you know, even kind of work better with your clients. So.
Right. So you guys are using it as this opportunity to influence your search results on the things that you really want to say without exposing the people that are coming to the website to read it and see like misspelled words, right? So
For sure.
yeah, that's fantastic. And then like this part about not needing content approval, it's like you get the benefit of the content without having like, especially if you're working for someone else's brand, right? Having their content on there, right?
Yeah.
And this is like the best way I would describe. It's like an instruction manual for Google of like, hey, this is what the site is about, but it's not visible to any of the people that are visiting the site, right? It's this
For
like
sure.
Google, it's like there's they go to the website and it's like there's this mailbox that has the instruction manual for the site, and Google knows and they check for that mailbox every time and they open it up and they're like, okay, I know exactly what this site is about and all the different things that matter right here from this mailbox that I check every time, right? The stuff out of the box is like, it doesn't have the capabilities to go out and scrape and pull all this data into. So the hard part of this is the research, but I'll tell you, like, the work that you do to get this stuff back, like to go and gather all this data and load it into the schema. If we think about once we take on a client, we've started a time clock, right? And losing a client because we don't deliver, like what's the work associated with going to land a new client and then starting the process all over again, right? So I would encourage you guys, like, this work is worth doing. You've seen like he's outranking Cox for business packages with no content on the page, only schema, right? So I think there's a ton of misconceptions, and schema, fortunately for us that are in a competitive environment, schema is undervalued. And it's an untapped opportunity by most agencies. They don't know how to leverage it. They don't know how to take advantage of it. They don't know what to do. So Terry, like we've talked about it from a high level. How does somebody go about building schema? What are some resources that we can use for this?
There's a couple different ones. Schema.org. That's where I started. Under most types of schema, they have templates down there that you can start building. The best thing to do is convince me to give you one of my templates. I've done all the hard work for you. But then there's some tools out there that'll help you compile schema, but they still won't do the research. They still won't do the stuff that, you know, the boots to the ground, so to speak. But yeah, so the resources out there, if you really want to dig in and get into this rabbit hole, again, it's we do white label for most everybody, mainly because we already have the processes, we have the SOPs, we can do it pretty quickly. And you really only need to do it once, and then you get that person gets all the templates, and then when you add a new blog or whatever, you just use that template to put the new blog in. So, but to get started, definitely schema.org. You can go look at my site, salterasite.com, and look at my schema, kind of get some ideas of the different things that we're doing. That site is our biggest testing site because it's a very powerful site. So we get test results a lot quicker. So if you see some things in there that's kind of funky, just message me and I'll probably tell you, oh yeah, that's something new we're trying. So, but yeah, it's like I said, I think it's super important. I understand why it's hard for agencies to implement, because like I got 3 people that do this full time. That's all they do is schema. So I get that. It does take a lot of work. It does take a lot of research. It does take, a lot of thought process. We just did a massive e-com site with some really cool testing that we're doing, and the results are just crazy good. So and that's another negative thing, positive thing, is that once we find something that really works, now we have to go back and implement it in all these websites. So, but yeah, I think it's super powerful. But here's the caveat, big disclaimer, stars, whistles, quotations, whatever you want to do. If your website sucks already, schema is not going to help it. So know that. Okay, this is dead serious, because schema is like buying a good backlink, and then you wonder why that good backlink caused your website to go down. A lot of it is because you're introducing stuff to Google that should have been fixed before, that Google probably ignored. But now that you have this big red light bulb above your website, Google's probably going to take better notice of your actual website. So I tell people all the time, schema is the icing on the cake. And I mean that just like that sounds. The cake has to be good before you just go and throw schema on it. So I've had people say, hey, we put in the schema and the site's not doing anything, or I've had some drops. And I said, okay, well, let's do an audit on your website. And, I mean, forget the 17 H1s, but, your website has 250 words of content. I mean, so that's what I mean. It's not a magic bullet. Don't think you can hire me and pay me and all of a sudden I'm going to fix your crappy website. It's not going to happen. So I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to fix your website first, then do the schema, or teach you how to do both. But again, it's not a magic bullet. I want to make that very clear. So it's
Right.
like I said, if time.com gives you a good backlink and that Google goes to your website and your website's not worthy of that kind of backlink, Google will hammer you. They'll be like, oh gosh, time.com's a bad link. No, has nothing to do with the bad.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense. It's basically going to shine the spotlight on. So you got to fix if you have technical SEO issues or poor content, like, you have gambling stuff on there or whatever. It's maybe it's not going to be what you think it is. Right. So Terry, let's just talk. There's a lot of different types of schema. If we can just, we'll open this up for questions in just a second, but just to kind of like round out this topic a little bit more, you've kind of breezed over this. Talk to us about the different types of schema and when they should be applied.
Well, there's basically three main schemas. So you have what's called site-wide, and this is schema that goes on all the relevant pages on your website. And relevant, I mean, is you don't put it on your thank you pages. You don't put it in your password protected areas. You probably don't want it on your terms of service and privacy statements. But so you have a site-wide, and the site-wide, depending on the domain, the site-wide is typically the snapshot of the entire website. Who's the brand? What services do you do? Do you have one location or multiple locations? And then stuff about the brand, what awards have you won, affiliates, all that stuff. So that's typically the site-wide. Then you have the service schema. So service schema is just what it sounds like. So if you're in construction and you have, electrician or HVAC or plumber, whatever, then you have that type of schema. And then you have local business. So my rule with local business is if you have a GBP or GMB, whichever, I like the old name, then it gets local business schema. If you have a GMB in Dallas and you have a Plano page, you still get local business, but your GMB is still Dallas. Okay. So one of the things that I see people do is, let's say, for instance, you have your main business is in Oklahoma and you have a spinoff or a secondary business in Dallas. So if your main corporate office is in Oklahoma, it doesn't go on your Dallas page because or a Plano page if you have a Dallas. You try to do whichever map is closest. It's not going to extend the radius of that map too much, but it'll definitely strengthen the location of that latitude and longitude. If your map's a service area business and you don't show the address, you still have to put, and I still would put the address in schema. Okay, you don't have to put it in the public. You don't have to show it on the map. I still would associate in schema that location with this address and these geo coordinates. because that's going to be important. So Google knows where your GMB is for a service area business, but you need to kind of make sure they know where it is. Yes, it's located here. My address is hidden. Here's my lat and longitude. This is where I'm at. This is the center of my parking lot, so to speak. Start ranking me from here. So otherwise, Google's just going to start making some guesses. So it's powerful with local. I do some crazy things with local. We test some crazy things with local, especially when it comes to driving directions within schema and how we utilize those maps. It's way more than what I could talk about here, but come to spring training. I'll tell you all about it.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna hit on that in a minute. I've got a follow-up question. I know a lot of these guys on this call are building out like lead gens, right? And you were referencing how like if the company's been in business, then we can like search for these different awards and things. But if you're creating a company out of the thin air, what stuff like what can we put in the schema? Obviously, we're going to put the keywords and all the things we want to rank for and that part of it, but we don't have this like history of like where you're gathering like this guy was on the rowing team and all this other stuff. So what adjustment do you make for that type of setup for a lead gen versus like when you're doing SEO for a client?
It all depends on what you're building as far as citations, especially if you're local, if you're lead gen, you're super hyper local. Go out and get the free chamber link, go out and get the free BBB, go out and get the what is that? Manta. Go out and get all those super powerful local citations and put them in your schema right away. And then that's just going to start building a foundation. Then you can go out and start building stacks and do a press release immediately, get those 500 links from the press release. So in literally in the first 30 days, you can build 1,000 links to a brand new website. Easy.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. And Terry, it just occurred to me while you were talking, like a lot of the like state registrar has like the LLC listed. So for people that I know, some people have set up a some people have gone so far even for legions to set up an LLC. Other people, like for our clients, they have an LLC set up. That stuff is really I mean, that's a very trusted credential to have. So that should always go in the schema, right? A link to that's saying like, hey, here's where
yeah, but I would put it on the about page. I wouldn't put it on the site wide. So anything specific, like if you have like an LLC and you get the public URL for the for where your documents at or whatever, like Nevada doesn't have that, Arizona does. But yeah, anything that you want to do that's specific to your brand. And we're even starting to do this with GMB. So one of the things that obviously we've all dealt with them suspending us and trying to get those things back, but we're actually starting to turn lease documents into a PDF, and I'm putting that PDF in the about page schema.
Wow.
This is our lease for this location. I don't know if they're reading it. I really don't give a shit, but it seems to me that it gives me a little bit more credibility for my brand being here compared to just, oh, here's my GMB. My GMB got suspended. Now I've got to, deal with that kind of crap, so we really do a lot of testing around, especially around local, because we all have the same issue. I hate maps. Anybody ever tells me if there's one thing in this business I hate, it's maps. Mainly because we just don't have any control whatsoever. None. We were just answering reviews yesterday and the damn thing suspended. I was like, what the frick? We're doing what you tell us to do, Google. What the hell? So and so we really are testing a lot of stuff with maps and schema, local and schema, stuff like that.
Awesome. Yeah. Really great insight on this. I know we got a couple of questions coming in here, so I'm just going to read them out. Alex says, let me go back here. For sites like Squarespace that create schema automatically, do you still load in custom schema on the top of the automated one? I would assume that you do, because that's going to be similar to like a WordPress plugin where it's just pulling in basic stuff.
Yeah, but the only third-party builder site that can do our schema, and it's very hit or miss, is Shopify. Squarespace is actually the worst. So a lot of things about Squarespace you guys need to understand is Squarespace is actually a true subdomain system. So if you look at the view source on a Squarespace site, your URL is your domain.squarespace.com, and they redirect that to your URL. So that right there should be the biggest red flag you've ever seen. But the bad thing about our schema and platforms, or even IT departments that work for big, big companies, a million lines of code scares the shit out of them. This schema is huge. It can be massive. So if you say, hey, Mr. IT developer that is Motorola's in charge of Motorola's computers or website, hey, install this, they're going to say, F you, So, and Squarespace is the exact same way, big commerce. Shopify is the only one so far that's kind of letting us get away with it, but we get away with it with Google Tag Manager. So we install it in Google Tag Manager, and that feed puts it into Shopify. The bad thing is it's hit or miss. If Shopify doesn't update and it breaks the Google Tag Manager code, it's just something you have to continually monitor. But yeah, you really can't put our schema on platform sites. It just won't work. So
Yeah.
you don't have control of that much code. You're lucky to get your analytics code put in those.
Right. Do you have experience with site like Duda? Like there was a follow-up question.
I do to a point, but not on the schema side. I've actually worked with some people at Duda. I was a big Duda guy before responsive WordPress came along. But I have not played with it as far as what they would allow or not allow. I have some good friends that work for Duda. I could probably reach out and ask. But again, this schema really freaks people out. They just don't understand it. It's one of those things that if I'm an IT guy and I'm responsible for this website, I wouldn't install this stuff either unless I did research and then tested it and everything else. So, that's always one of my big disclaimers when I talk about it is, it can be very hard to get not only approved to be implemented, but then actually to implement it. So,
yeah.
But we are constantly testing it. That's how we know so much about Squarespace, or excuse me, Shopify. So we know what we can kind of do. We know we have to match Shopify's schema with our ad ID. That's kind of how you merge the two. So we used to be able to override Shopify's schema, but it would just keep coming back. So we learned that we needed to, through the ad ID of the schema, we were able to combine them. But yeah, I just tried. I did was just in Squarespace about 3.5 weeks ago. It's still dirty as hell. So
Still
I'm a
mess.
coder guy, so I look at things completely different. It makes beautiful websites. I'm not saying it doesn't do that, but a code guy, yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand you on that one. So I know you've got a strong opinion on these next two questions here. So we talked a little bit about this at our event a few weeks ago. Can Google recognize AI generated content?
Okay, so here's the question. Can they? Yeah. Are they? Do they care? Probably not. They're in the game, so if they're gonna, it's like, it's like punishing yourself. So their Gemini content is not any better by any sort of means than ChatGPT. So I think it's more patterns. So remember how Google works and search engines work. They can't read. They're just looking for signals. So if they wanted to go in and say, hey, we're going to detect AI content by the word conclusion or furthermore, or these ones that always, all these chat GPTs and these generators put these, we call them fluff words or fluff beginners of sentences. They could easily detect that. But here's the thing. I believe as long as your content is helpful, it's answering queries, it's grammatically correct, it doesn't look like it was written by, I'm not even going to put labels on that. There's so much bad content out there. But I think you now have to think about content better. So like I talked about at the mastermind, is that you don't think of content as one page at a time anymore. You have to think about content as multiple pages about a topical subject or a geo subject or something. You can't just no longer write one blog about, why you need to check your hot water heater every year, and then one blog about, hey, here's how to plunge a leaky toilet, and that's your 2 blogs a month for your clients. You're going to get left behind and quick because people like me are writing 10 blogs about how to fix a leaky toilet. and we're pumping up one page by doing those 10 blogs, because now we're writing about all the different entities and semantics and all the different things we've been doing in the background. Now we're all putting in the foreground, and that's kind of like the exciting part. So my question always to there is, yeah, I'll bet you they can read it, but I don't think it matters. We have sites that are all A right now, and they are just kicking ass. So, but they
Same
still
for
have
us.
a human touch in the middle.
Yeah.
I still use Grammarly Pro. They still have to read good. I still want certain things in my content, for certain reasons. And I think as long as you do that and you do it better than everybody else, you're never gonna have anything to worry about.
Yeah. My exact same experience for us, where we have a lot of sites that are completely AI written and they're doing really well. So Paul Myers has kind of like an extension onto this question is like, do you think websites will be relevant in 5 years in light of ChatGPT and all the AI things? Like, how is that going to change things in your opinion, Terry?
Um, I think it goes back to the same thing when voice search came out. Everybody was saying websites are done, voice search is going to take over. All these people and these things in people's houses is just going to rule the world. Is it going to change search? Heck yeah, it's going to change search, no doubt. Matter of fact, I think we also need to make sure that we're writing for the scrapers. I think that we want at some point our content to be scraped to be used for other content. What does that look like? I have no idea. I do think the big question mark for me is the legalities of what ChatGPT does in America as far as copyright laws, infringements, all the stuff that we've had in place for many, many years here. How is that going to affect? Because they've already proven that ChatGPT got a lot of its information from a big news site, or they've already proven that they're, writing books in other people's voices that had to be trained that way. So, what's going to come out in the grand scheme of things when somebody pops up and says you're not able to do this, this, and this anymore? I think that's more the question of how it's going to change the landscape of AI. Or they could just ignore it. I think ignoring it, I think, is very dangerous, especially in the voice and video side. You can literally clone people's voices and make videos, and that's a real scary thing if people will do that in a negative sense. But again, look what happened with Taylor Swift and all those AI generated images. Just that little piece right there was kind of like a semi bombshell. But people are like looking at this now like, oh shit. So, you know, and all these old news, New York Times and all these old news publications, they've basically had all their crap ripped off. So, and I think that I don't know what kind of repercussion that's going to have, but I think there's definitely should be some sort of saying that you can't do A, B, and C, even though it's an open internet. I get that, but they're also saying that they're scraping stuff behind password protected firewalls and stuff like that. So that also kind of gets kind of scary. But I don't think it's going to replace SEO at all. I just think you're going to have to do SEO smarter.
Right. I agree. So Alec asked the question, what kind of tools help with the research for all this info? I think we almost talked about that. So obviously, like with the keyword research parts, there's tools like Ahrefs and SEMrush that you can dive into to like what stuff should go in there. But what other additional tools can help with the research?
That depends on what you're researching. So, we don't do keyword research anymore. We do query research. So, I care more about how people search for a keyword than the keyword. Okay, if that makes sense. And Search Console is our Bible. It's probably the only tool that we all really like that Google has, because they've pretty much taken away everything else we used to like. But Search Console will keep track of your queries. The nice thing about queries is Google gives you credit for 1 to 100 spots. So if you're number 89 and somebody's searching for a query like where's the best place to install a solar hot water heater, that's a query you probably ought to write about. So, so when you're thinking about content and strategies of things, keyword research is fine, but you've got to take it to the next level. You've got to see what's the intent of somebody searching that keyword. Fixing a leaky toilet. That's probably going to fall under the emergency type category. So, If you got a leaky toilet, you probably want this thing fixed pretty quick. So you also got to look and see, okay, when I'm writing this content out, these are emergencies. These are maybe I need to do some more near me type writing. Maybe I need to do some, within 24 hours or within 6 hours, that type of writing on for emergencies. And then over here, maybe I need to look at, is a garage the best place to put a tankless hot water heater for solar? Those type of queries is what I teach and encourage people to write about, because now you're going to be actually answering questions that people are already looking for, and you're going to get a lot more improvement and a lot more powerful rankings by doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Let's change gears for a minute. Terry, let's talk about SEO spring training. Want to make
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
My
So,
second favorite subject.
all right. Tell us what is SEO spring training? How long you been doing it? What's the goal behind it?
5 years ago in 2019, Elizabeth and I started SEO spring training. We started it because when I was in real estate, I held a lot of conferences, taught a lot of people how to do real estate. And it was a different industry. It was an industry that people would go to these events, and then you'd see them at the next event and you talk to them and they still haven't done any investment. You'd see them at the next event and you'd talk to them, and they've been to 3 or 4 events already and spent thousands and thousands of dollars and still never pulled the trigger. And so when I went in my first SEO event, I was brand new in SEO. We'd been doing web design for a few years. So I didn't have, a lot of money by any means. And the very first conference I went there specifically to see one person and mainly to go up and thank this one person. That's all I wanted to do. It was just say, hey, thank you. You taught me, and I credit you with a lot of the stuff that I know now about SEO. Well, I paid all this money and went through, wasn't really interested in a lot of the topics of the conference itself. It was, I call it a pitch fest, hey, here's how you do something. Now you can go buy my CDs in the back type of event. But I never got to meet this person. So I paid the extra money to go to the event. We went to this back room after this person spoke, and this person got on a plane and left. There was 10 of us in this room that paid all this extra money to meet this guy. And I felt so bad for the host because I knew this wasn't her fault. I knew she didn't have this plan. I'm sure they had some sort of agreement that he was going to come in and say hi or whatever. Anyways, I left that event really disappointed. And the very next month, I went to another event that I'd already signed up for. I was not looking forward to going to this event. I thought it'd be the same thing. And it was all SEO, which was kind of cool. So they had a contest. I won the contest at this event, who can rank the fastest or whatever. And but the event itself just was lacking in so many areas. I really felt that the value wasn't there for how much the ticket price was. The hotel was just a shithole, excuse my French. And it was just the experience of the event was bad. So we came back. I came back. Elizabeth didn't go with me on these. And I was pretty livid. I was pretty upset. So 3 months later, we did our first SEO spring training. And I didn't know hardly anybody in this industry. I'd been following people. Clint Butler was one of the first persons that I'd met, and I reached out to him and said, hey, I'm doing this event. I don't know what it's going to be like, but here's my thoughts. And so anyways, we had like 15 speakers, 2 days, 80 people, I think it was 70 people, but just really great, and had a great VIP event. So anyways, we started that process. And the whole goal is value. That's the only thing that I'm about is value. So, and I tell people that before you go to any event, you need to make sure that you have a plan for that event. What do you want to learn? What are you struggling with? What's the next level you want to move to? Those type of things. You got to have these serious conversations with yourself. And so I started having those conversations about what type of event do I want so people truly get value out of it. So we were forced to do a digital one in 2020, and that was an eye-opening experience, but that was probably the best thing that happened to us. So we were 3 weeks from the actual conference when COVID shut everything down. So I had 150 people coming, and Terry goes into shit and bricks mode because there's no money to refund people. There's all the money's, all the rooms have been bought, everything's been done. We're 3 weeks, all the catering's done, everything's done. So anyways, so we switched and we went digital in about a 3 week time. So our 2 day conference, 150 people, ended up being 8 days, 72 speakers, 900 people came through in digital. We were all locked down all over the freaking planet. So it was like perfect timing. And it really started our reputation as, really talk about value. I mean, people were coming in for $50 and learning from all these massive speakers from all over the world. And so when we went back live again, now we're, it's just, again, it's just about the value. We actually choose our locations for the events for the networking portion of it. All the speakers stay at the same hotel. All the speakers network with everybody. They hang out with everybody. Our conference is maxed out about 180, so we want to keep it small and intimate. This year is a little bit different because we're doing morning stage, which Patrick's speaking in the morning on the stage. And then in the afternoon, we have mastermind breakout rooms. So if you want to come and learn everything you want to know about on-page and schema, I've got a room in there. I've got 4 of the best 5 schemas in the entire freaking planet going to be teaching in that room. If you want to learn about link building and maps, I've got a separate room for that. If you want to learn about AI and all the cool things you can do with content and images and all the stuff that has to do with SEO, we have a room for that. And then if you're interested in growing your agency, we have a room for agency growth, retention, all that type of stuff. So 3 days, I have 30 speakers, and I'm probably going to have another 30 people in the audience that have spoke at my stuff in the past. So people still come to our events. Our speakers come back to our events. We encourage spouses, we include them in things, which I think is super important. Patrick does too, which I think is, there's very few people that remember that the spouse is also with you. And again, yeah, it's just going to be, if you're into baseball, our VIP event, we rented 3 huge suites for the Diamondbacks Yankees baseball game. So come watch the Diamondbacks spank the Yankees. It's always going to be good. And then Thursday we do golf. Thursday we also go to the gun range. You can't come to Arizona without shooting a gun and playing golf. So that is, and we have a special coupon code. What is it? Lead Snap 24.
Lead Snap
It's
24.
actually Lead Snap 24. Somebody, can I put a thing in the chat, or you guys do it? Anybody?
I got it. I got it.
Anyways, it's actually the highest coupon code we have. So we did that for Patrick. And there is only 2 spots left for the VIP. We sold 1 this morning on my Webby, or my podcast. I was told to not say the word Webby. Again, old school. But it's going to be an incredible event. We have great food. We go the whole 9 yards, and we've never had a complaint. People kind of fight to come back to it because we do limit it so small. And we have no desire to be a huge event. We like the intimate event. And then secondary, it continues after the event. I do AMAs, I get speakers involved. This thing continues in our Facebook group even after the event's over. So if you come with a goal, I'll make sure you hit that goal. Put it that way.
Love it. This is I'm really excited. Obviously, Terry, you and I have spoken at a number of events together, and I just can tell the way that you guys have set this up to try to make sure that the guests are have an amazing time. This is the same thing that we try to do at our events, right? A lot of you guys have heard some of the experiences from some of our events. So this is starts for VIPs. It starts on April 3rd, right? April 3rd and 4th. Yep. What's the exact dates? Is it the 3rd, 4th, and 5th and 6th?
Well, the 5th, 6th, and 7th is the actual conference. The 3rd is the VIP day, and then 4th is the golf play day. Welcome reception Thursday night kicks everything off, and then the conference actually ends Sunday at lunch. We still get a great meal, and then Sunday afternoon is the tech mastermind. So if you sign up for the tech mastermind, which is probably the most, I'm not going to say famous part of our conference, but probably the most liked, because we put people up there in a facilitative kind of open room thing, and you get to see some pretty crazy things that people are doing with Google Sheets. with, you know, AI and imaging and just all kinds of stuff. So last year the tech mastermind sold out and we still had people in the hallways begging us to come in. So it is a fun part of the conference, especially if you're a techie person and you want to just go in and see, holy crap.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've like had a taste of some of this at some previous events, some of the things that people are doing, and it's impressive. It's pretty wild. So I see a question here. I guess it was answered: business access versus business tech. So business tech includes the tech mastermind piece,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So
Okay, cool. So,
yeah.
and this
Yeah.
is all, this is in, um, is it actually in Phoenix or is it in like Scottsdale or
It's in Scottsdale. Yeah, it's in
Scottsdale?
Scottsdale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Scottsdale, the beginning of April, I'm going to be there. I'm bringing my wife. We're going to, looking through the roster, like you guys just got a taste of just kind of like a sprinkle of some of like Terry's knowledge, but let me just kind of like share my screen. It's at SEOspringtraining.com. Like this is kind of like a who's who of top SEO people. I know for some of you guys, like, um, they're like this could be a long way to travel, or maybe it's closer to some of you and you traveled a long way to Florida, or you didn't come to Florida because whatever. But like this speaker roster, um, like if you guys have been around this game, you probably recognize a lot of these people on here, right? Some very high level people. There's Matt Zimmerman, create ZimWriter, right? I think I might have.
Elias is the creator of SEO Autopilot and now SEO Neo. Dixon
Yeah.
Jones is the creator of InLinks, one of the best interlinking tools on the planet.
Just person after person. There's Bradley Benner on there. I think a lot of you guys probably know him, right? Man, Adam McChesney. I know a lot of you guys know him. Josh Nelson from Seven Figure Agency. This guy, holy cow,
Yeah.
that guy's going too, right? Creator of Lead Snap. Yeah, just a ton of great people on here that have a ton of knowledge, right? So it's something I'm really excited for to be a part of it. You know, I'm honored to be a part of it, Terry, and appreciate the opportunity. And hopefully, if you guys want to come and join us, we'd love to see you. It's one thing. I'll tell you, like I've shared this before. It's one thing when you're talking to people online, but it's a whole different scenario when you really start to build a friendship that goes beyond Zoom. And these are the things that, you can dig. You have the opportunity now to like dig in and ask questions that, it may not be the first question that you ask on Zoom. It may be like the follow-up and like turns into a whole conversation that we don't have the framework for on a call like this. Like for instance, Greg was asking questions and like that could be a whole 30-minute conversation that we got to make sure that we honor the structure here. But in situations like that, this is where we can really dive deep and solve big problems, right? I always say that at these events, it's what's caught, not what's taught, right? The speakers are going to bring amazing information, but when you have the opportunity to have conversations for a whole week, somebody says something a certain way and you're like, oh, is that you do it that way? And then like explain that. And then like those can't happen on a Zoom call, and those happen at these events. And it's really powerful. It looks like so Alec Newmeyer, oh, you already got that answered. Alec Newmeyer says he's buying a ticket right now. He's not worried about he would buy a ticket if he wasn't worried about his wife having a baby.
We actually had one. We actually had a guy that left after half a day last year because his wife went into early labor. So yeah, we took care of him. So we made sure he didn't miss any information.
Yeah. So then I guess you don't have an excuse, Alec, and you should buy the ticket now. So there you go.
Oh, bring her with you.
Yeah.
We got great hospitals in Scottsdale.
All right. You guys, any final questions? You guys, I want to make sure we're at an hour and 20 minutes. I want to make sure I'm respectful of Terry's time. Terry's a busy man with a lot of things going on. Any final questions? All right, let's do this. Let's show some love for Terry for taking his time out to come on
Real
this
quick,
call.
one more caveat here. I'll even sweeten the pot anymore. Whoever signs up with the Lead Snap 24 within the next 5 days, you get to go to a private dinner with Elizabeth and I and Patrick and his wife that Friday night of the conference.
How about that? That's worth the price of the ticket right there.
So
yeah. That'd be awesome. This is one of my favorite parts of these events is just like really getting to know people on a deeper level and hanging out. So, yeah, You guys, let's show some appreciation for Terry in the chat. He took time out. He's
Thank you for having
yeah.
me. And I'm happy to come back if you bug Shannon or whatever, and or Patrick, I mean, and then Patrick, I call him Shannon. I actually have a cousin I just talked to, Shannon. But yeah, I'm happy to come back. You know, just beg Patrick to, you know, get me back there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely going to do some like deep dives on the coaching stuff with you too. I know that the people that got like a bigger taste of what you deliver during our event than just this kind of like 20-minute Q&A kind of on schema. They're really excited to have you join us in a coaching program. So
Yeah.
awesome, guys. Okay. Appreciate you guys. Look, so today is the 21st. Next call, the 28th. What can you guys do between now and then to create some wins in your business, to move things forward, and have some momentum, guys? So make that stuff happen. We appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope you guys can join us at spring training. I would love to hang out with you guys in person. And you know, a lot of you guys I've met in person. It's been amazing. There's a lot of new faces in here that haven't had the opportunity. Would love to have that first in-person meeting if possible, if it works for your schedule and finances and everything. So appreciate you, Terry. Thank you so much. You guys have an amazing week, and we'll talk with you guys soon.
Thank you, guys. Have a good week.
Thanks, Terry. Appreciate it. See you guys.
Thank you.